Welcome back. In this module, we're going to be talking about some not so exciting stuff, but it's really important stuff. It's compliance. If you don't stay in compliance on Amazon, you're going to run into some trouble. And sometimes you don't actually know what you did wrong. The problem with Amazon is if you do something wrong, they usually don't tell you what you did wrong and necessarily what you have to do. They just say, hey, you get an email and says, hey, you're not following our rules. Please let us know when you're going to follow our rules. And then you're like, what rules am I not following? What did I not do? And you got to kind of decipher it. It's very, 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 very vague when they claim something. And so you got to stay on top of this stuff and know in advance what you need to do. So I just want to talk a little bit here about compliance and some of the things you need to be thinking about as you're developing your products and as you're selling on Amazon. Amazon says they certify everything compliance-wise, but they do and they don't. It's kind of a hit or miss. So sometimes you'll see some people skate by without doing all the proper paperwork or all the proper documentation. And other times they're just strict as heck. You just happen to be the guy that has his lucky number called and they just come down hard on you. Now there's a lot of, because Amazon's a marketplace, there's a lot of thought about who is actually responsible for something if something goes wrong. Should it be Amazon that's actually responsible for what they sell and what they ship? Or are you, as the third-party merchant, responsible for it? And there's a gray area there. There's a lot of legal stuff going on right now to try to sort that out a little bit. So some of this could change, but pretty much Amazon passes the buck to you in most cases. So if there's a problem, you're basically indemnifying Amazon of any liability. And if someone sues or some issue comes back, they're coming back on you. And like I said in one of the earlier modules, California has their own sets of rules called Prop 65. You could Google that and the name of your product, and it'll come up with some stuff. There are compliance companies out there that you can find that will help you make sure you're in compliance and do all the testing for you if your product needs that. Not all products need all this stuff. The one thing you cannot do is trust your international supplier. It says, oh, everything is certified. You need to double check that because sometimes they fake documents. Sometimes the documents are old. For example, during the pandemic, we sold hand sanitizer, and we found some hand sanitizer in India. And to sell hand sanitizer in the United States, you have to have FDA approval. The Federal Drug Administration actually oversees that. Well, they made some exceptions during COVID where people were able to actually make hand sanitizer without getting FDA approval because of the demand for it. And there's a short time where there were some exceptions, but when we started selling it, we wanted to make sure we're in compliance, even though there was these exceptions. And we had the supplier in India that said they're FDA approved. They sent us these documents, and if we would take them at face value, we could have been in trouble because these were not actually the United States FDA. It was some other like Federation of Delhi Associates or something in Delhi, India. It wasn't even the true FDA. So you have to double check everything. Don't take anything at face value when your supplier, no matter whether they're in China, India, wherever they are. Do your own homework and do your own due diligence to make sure it's actually official. And you can do that by reaching out to the government agencies directly and say, hey, I just want to verify. Like on the FDA, there's a registration number. You can go to an FDA website, fda.gov, and there's a link on there where you can actually verify like the ID numbers and stuff and see if that's actually the company that's registered for it. If you need to get FDA registered for any reason, there's companies that will help you with that process for a fee. They specialize in pushing through the papers and making sure you got everything done right so there's no delays. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff that's out there. But when Amazon comes down on compliance, they are going to probably either suspend your payments or they're going to suspend your listing until you come into compliance because they don't want to spread their risk unnecessarily as well. Now, there's several different types of companies in the United States, or not companies, agencies that actually govern compliance. The big ones, the big three are the FCC. They govern like Bluetooth, for example. If your product has any kind of Bluetooth compatibility, it's got to go through some FCC certifications. Any kind of thing with a radio wave or any kind of electronics type of stuff, that's the FCC. The FDA controls anything that's consumable or goes on your skin. That goes on basically affects a human or a human body. That's the FDA. The CPSIA is consumer products, so that's like toys and any kind of consumer product goods. There's also some for textiles, and there's some for that. There's special labeling that's required on a lot of stuff. California, especially with the Prop 65, has some special rules on what has to be or cannot be on a label. You know, sometimes you get these you buy electrical cords or something like an extension cord. There's all these stickers on it, like all these warning labels, and like just, man, the first thing I do when I get those is I cut those things off because they're nasty and ugly looking, and they just sitting there on the floor or whatever. But those are all required. Or you buy a pillow or you buy a blanket, it's got all these tags all over it. You know, you get some cushions for your chairs, and it's got all these like white tags. You know, you can just, a lot of times they're perforated so you can, because they know you want to turn them off. You can turn them off. Those are the kinds of things you got to make sure that you're in compliance with, and that you do that stuff. Otherwise, you can get in trouble. Sometimes it's the warranty cards. They have to be in a certain number different languages, especially if you're selling in Europe. There's certain rules on the packaging has to be in these 4 or 5 languages. The warranty card, the instructions have to be in these 4 or 5 languages. So you want to do your due diligence to make sure you've got all that stuff lined up. There's safety standards in different countries. You know, in the United States, we have Underwriters Laboratory, UL, which controls a lot of the electronic stuff. So anything electronic, kitchen appliances, electronics, anything that plugs in with electricity or has batteries is usually certified by the UL to be fire safe and goes through some different testing. In Europe, it's CE. So CE is the agency that handles that in Europe. A lot of times when you're sourcing out of China, they will say they're CE certified, but a lot of times they're not UL certified. So you got to double check that. So a lot of the factories, they get the CE certification because it also applies in places like Africa and other places. So they do that, but they don't do the UL one for whatever reason for the United States. A lot of times you're going to have to require special documentation, especially if you're selling like hazardous goods or anything flammable. Like when we sold hand sanitizer, we had to have all these certifications of like at what temperature does the alcohol catch on fire, and we had to upload these documents into Amazon. In Seller Central, there's a place where you can upload these documents. Sometimes they'll let you list your listing, and then a week later, they'll kind of temporarily suspend it and say you need to upload these documents before you continue to sell. So it's best just to do this stuff up front and in advance. Just who's going to report you if there's a problem? Sometimes Amazon just sweeps, especially if there's something in the news, where something comes down in the news where all of a sudden there's a safety concern about some sort of ingredient in a supplement, or a safety concern about some sort of plastic, and they'll do a sweep and they'll look for those keywords in your listing, or look for if you fit the profile, and they'll suspend your listing, or they'll send you a warning that says you have 3 days to send us this documentation, or else we're pulling down your listing. So Amazon will do it that way. Customs can enforce it. So when you're bringing stuff in, if you don't have the right documentation or the right stuff, or right labeling, customs can hold it. I had this happen one time. I was bringing wall calendars in from Europe to sell. We have a direct-to-consumer business where we sell on Amazon. We also sell to individual customers. So we sell calendars that we make, and then I buy other people's calendars wholesale, and we become like basically like a Walmart of calendars. So we sell ours and other people's. And I was bringing some in from Europe, and they didn't have the right labeling on them. They said they were printed in I think they said printed in Europe is what they said on the actual calendar. And when they came in, customs held them in the port of Houston and said that this is not what country were they in? This is not sufficient. The port say printed in Europe is not okay. I said, well, they're printed actually in the UK. They said, well, it needs to say that. So they said, you have 2 choices. We're either going to dispose of this stuff and charge you a $3,000 penalty to dispose of it, or you can relabel everything. And so we actually ended up having to get the stuff, go make stickers, put stickers on every single calendar, show them, and just basically take it back to them and show them. And then they ended up releasing it and just charge us like a $500 penalty or something like that. Also, you know, if it's made in China, you know, there's some people who, people don't like to see made in China. You know, some really gung-ho patriotic Americans don't like to see made in China on a product, so they'll say made in the, you know, they'll use the initials for China. You know, the People's Republic of China or whatever, the PRC, made in PRC, instead of made in China. That's not okay. It has to say made in China. You can't get around it with saying made in PRC, for example. So customs will catch that stuff. Some of these agencies, they're on the lookout. There's bounty hunters. They go into Amazon and they're just looking for people. They'll buy your product and see if you have the label. And if you don't, they'll turn you in and they get the fee. There's law firms. There's one in Chicago that specializes in going after Amazon sellers for compliance. And they get bounties and they get rewards for finding it. There's people in Europe. You know, in Europe, you have to issue if you're selling on Amazon in Europe, Germany, for example, you have to issue an invoice with every single order. It has to be an invoice, and if you don't follow up with that proper invoice, then there's companies that will come after you, and it's like a 700 euro fine or something like that for not doing that. And that's their business. Their business is hunting down people like me and you that aren't playing by the rules and making money off of it. There's also Amazon customers will sometimes report stuff. They'll write something in their reviews. So sometimes a customer will write a review. This product, burned my skin or something. When I put it on, my skin turned orange and started falling off. And they'll write that in the review, and then Amazon will see that. It usually takes two things, not always, but if one's really bad, but usually takes two instances, and then they'll suspend your listing and actually make you do something. So there's all kinds of ways that you can get into trouble. You just got to make sure that you're completely locked up on this. In the U.S., the UL standard, like I said earlier, there's CE and the UL for the electronics. The UL is technically voluntary, but it's best to actually do it, and like Prop 65 is going to require it. Another thing to make sure you remember, I mentioned this in the shipping section, is if you're bringing in any kind of wood products, they have to be sprayed or fumigated or certified against certain types of bugs, so or fruit seeds or something that's been attached to it. So make sure you take care of that if you're bringing in any kind of wood products. All products have to have the country of origin on them. So wherever you're manufacturing, it just needs to be a standard thing that you do. Actually, on the product itself and on the actual master box labels, it needs to say made in China or made in Indonesia. Now, there's certain rules of what if you're making stuff partly in Vietnam and partly in India. Some of the parts are made in Vietnam, some of the parts are made in India. Or in those cases, it's usually wherever the most parts are made, where the predominant factory is, or the predominant parts is where you actually say it's made from. There's, you look at Apple. Apple, most of their stuff is manufactured in China, and some of it now in India. But it'll say designed in Cupertino or something, so that they have that little U.S. just to kind of make sure that people are aware this is a U.S. company and will support a U.S. company. They'll say designed in Cupertino, made in China, or made in India, or something like that. So you can do things like that, but you got to actually say where the product was made, and that's super important. There's also a bunch of state regulations that can vary, that can be different than what Amazon's regulations are. Like I said, California's Proposition 65. There's packaging rules. There's suffocation warnings. So anytime you use a plastic bag, even a small little plastic bag, especially big ones, but little small ones, you have to have suffocation warnings. There has to be something that's usually printed on the plastic. It's like kind of screen printed on the plastic that has one of those warnings that says, "Warning, don't stick this to your mouth or suck on it or whatever. You could die. Don't put this over your head." That kind of stuff. There's certain wordings. So whether you're using plastic bags inside your packages, you're putting all the screws for whatever you're selling in a plastic bag, it has to have the suffocation warning. If you're putting a bag to hold your dog treats and you're sticking a label on it, it has to have the suffocation warning. So make sure you have all those special warnings on all your products as well. The risks, if you don't comply, is Amazon's going to boot you. They got to either take the listing off, or in extreme cases, they'll suspend you from selling on Amazon. They'll hold your money. Just recently, in the UK, actually in Europe, primarily in the UK, there's companies that were having their disbursements, their payments from Amazon held because they weren't in VAT compliance. They didn't have the proper VAT documentation. And Amazon's like, well, we're not going to be on the hook for this, and you guys got to get your ducks in a row, so we're not going to pay you. We're holding your disbursements until...
Anh chị đang bán hàng trên Amazon. Skyrock cung cấp các dịch vụ dành cho các nhà bán hàng trên Amazon với mức giá cực kỳ ưu đãi như đăng ký brand với USPTO, từ Helen Ten, từ Jungle Scout, Logistics và Warehouse. Xem hình thông tin chi tiết dưới phần mô tả nhé.
You actually get your VAT documents all lined up in our system, and we approve of them. So Amazon has power there, and that could screw up your cash flow. You could screw up your payments, screw up your suppliers, screw up a lot of stuff. So just make sure you have everything set up correctly and have everything documented correctly. All your supplier documents, all your certifications, all your testing, all your product testing, and your actually lab testing. In some cases, especially if you're building a brand new product that hasn't been brought into the US before, you're gonna have to do lab testing. Europe is a lot more strict than the US. Europe has packaging rules. Like certain percentage of the package has to be biodegradable, and you can't just throw boxes out. There's lots of special rules by country, by region, and even in the U.S. and the state level. For example, Texas has different rules for like hand sanitizer. Those go under the Department of Agriculture in Texas, and you have to have certain things to actually sell hand sanitizer in Texas that are different than the FDA national approval stuff. So be sure to check on all those types of things on your product if there's any doubts whatsoever, and make sure you have all those bases covered. Now, some other risks of selling on Amazon are you could have your accounts or product suspended almost at any time. When we were selling this hand sanitizer product back during COVID several years ago, we did everything right. We did all the branding right. I had a guy at Amazon on the business development team. I had his personal cell phone number as well as his Amazon number. So if we had any problems with our listing, I could call him. I didn't have to go through the traditional technical support, which can be kind of going in loops and going round and round and round and round. And we still had issues with the algorithm just taking us down. And it became so bad that we finally just threw in the towel and said, this is just not worth the fight anymore because we can't win on this algorithm. So those are risks on Amazon. There are companies that have insurance against your account being suspended. There's a few companies Lloyd's of London used to do that. There's a couple out there if you look around. Ashlyn Haddon, who spoke in the previous one of the previous modules about insurance, she used to represent one of those companies. She might know somebody if that's something you want to do. There is risk insurance for that. The other thing, risk in selling on Amazon is obviously, you could get knocked off, people counterfeiting you, people knocking you off. There's one of the biggest issues of selling on Amazon is Amazon actually owns the customer. They say their customer, their buyers are their buyers. They're not yours. So they don't give you their phone number. They don't give you their email address. And a lot of times they don't even give you their full address. You just have a name and maybe a zip code or a city. And Amazon's doing this for privacy reasons and to keep you from abusing the list. Because in the past, people were taking these phone numbers and sending out messages and doing auto dials and trying to get reviews and all kinds of stuff in the past. So they quit doing that. But one of the biggest assets that you can get in this business is a customer list. So there are things that you can do to actually try to get your people that buy on Amazon to actually get them onto your list. And one of the things that a lot of people do are product inserts. So they'll put a business card or a 4x6 card or a big sheet of paper inside the package, and they'll say, register here for a warranty, or go to this website to download a PDF of cooking recipes for the new crepe maker you just made, or join our VIP club, or something like that. Putting a package insert in your product is totally fine. There are people out there that will say, don't do it. It's against the rules. You cannot put package inserts. You cannot send people to your website. Those people are incorrect. There is misconception out there. There are things you cannot do. You cannot show your package insert like on your product listing. You can't put a URL on your product box and put it in your pictures on Amazon. You can't post a URL or try to get people to go to your website in your Amazon listing or go buy it somewhere else. You can't do any of that kind of stuff. You also cannot influence reviews. So you can't say, if you like this product, go leave us a 5-star review at Amazon. If you don't like it, don't contact Amazon, email us and we'll take care of it. That's influencing reviews. You can say, we love to get feedback from our customers. Please leave us a review, and just leave it at that. Don't put little 5 stars and don't put a little circle. That's influence. That would be inferring, go leave us a 5-star review. So don't do anything like that. Don't have people come to your website and fill out a warranty card or join your VIP club, and then you turn around and you email and say, I hope you like the product. Please leave us a review. Don't do anything around reviews other than saying, we love to hear feedback. Please leave us a review. It's very nebulous. It's very neutral. There's no influence of graphics showing that 5 stars or an Amazon smile or anything like that. It's just very simple ask. As long as you, and don't do something later on once you get them on your list to ask them to actually do reviews. Amazon sometimes will buy your product and they'll follow your flows to see what happens. Those are no-nos, and that's where people get into trouble with package inserts. But if you want to drive somebody to your social media sites with a QR code, or you want to have them come to your website to download a PDF, or a book of recipes or something like that, join a VIP club, there's nothing wrong with that. And one of my products, or which are, like I said, are wall calendars, we put an insert card inside this calendar, and inside this the calendar is like a 4x6 postcard looking thing. It says, "Congratulations, you've won a free calendar. Just pay shipping and handling, $10 shipping and handling, and we'll send you a free calendar." And people do it. They can either go to a website and do it by credit card, or some people send in a check or a money order, or a $10 bill, or two $5 bills, sometimes even 10 $1 bills in an envelope, and send it to us. And then we send them a free calendar. And what we do is we use our excess inventory of calendars. That every year there's some calendars that we manufacture. I'm like, oh, we overprinted on these, but they're 2025, 2026 calendars, and we can't sell them in 2027 because they're dated, so we have to get rid of them. So what we do is we give them away as free gifts in exchange for the customer getting onto our list. And then what do I do with those names on my list? The next year, when the new calendars come out, I message them, say, hey, the new calendars are available on Amazon. Go buy them. Here's a link. Or I say, we also have other calendars for sale. You can buy them from us and pay shipping and handling. And we also have these other calendars for sale, and it could do that. That's how we use that. I also do it with one of my dog brands, where we actually have you register to get a free gift. Now, I don't give a free gift in exchange for a review. I don't do anything or for posting a video or any kind of incentivization. That would be wrong. But for a free gift, a free treat bag of our assorted treats, just give us your information here. And then what we do is we ask for their dog's name. We ask for the dog's birth date and the breed on the form. And then when it's about a week before that dog's birthday, we send a postcard, a physical postcard in the mail. And we say, Rufus, your birthday's coming up. Make sure mom and dad treat you well. Here's a 10% discount for our dog treats on Amazon. Use this code and save 10% when you go to Amazon. That's a perfect example of how you build a customer list and you use it to sell more products, and people love it. So those are the kinds of things you can do, but just be careful. There's a gray line there where you can get into trouble. There's a ladder of loyalty when it comes to selling products, whether you're selling on Amazon or you're selling anywhere else. And Amazon's a great top of funnel lead magnet. Amazon's also the marketplace or the shopping cart of choice for people. So sometimes you might be advertising on TikTok or Facebook or somewhere else, and the first thing people are going to do is like, well, let me just see if it's on Amazon. My credit card's already stored at Amazon. I trust Amazon to ship it. Just easier, add it to my cart, and I know it's going to be here in a day or two. So in some cases, it's their shopping cart of choice. But what you want to work towards, though, on all your building your customer list, because your customer list, building a customer list and using Amazon to do that can be one of the most valuable things you do. It'll add value when you sell the company. It gives you ways to market to these people and to launch new products successfully. Think of it in 6 different levels. So the first time a customer hears about you, they're a suspect. They're like, I never heard of this company. What is this? I'm suspicious. What do they do? Tell me more about them. Then once they learn about it, like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. That sounds interesting. The second level is they're a potential buy. They're a prospect. So the second level, the first level is a suspect. Those are people that actually might buy your product, but I don't know. I haven't heard about this. Once they hear a little bit about it, they go, oh, okay, that sounds kind of cool. And now they become a prospect because they've showed interest. So once they've become a prospect, you want to move them up this little funnel to a shopper. So now they're like, okay, this sounds cool. What do you got? What you got? What are my options? Oh, you got, what kind of shoes do you? I love that these Kizik shoes that I don't have to tie them. I can slip my foot in and the back. I don't have to cram my ankle into the back and pull a little back of the shoe up or whatever. That's great. What are the different styles that you have? That would be a shopper. So they're going to be comparing the product. So that's the third level. So first level, suspect. Move them from suspect to prospect. Move them from prospect to shopper. And then the fourth level would be members. That means they made a purchase. So that they've actually purchased something. So once they bought your product, they become a member. And that's where the gold starts happening. That's where you can really start leveraging them. And this is where a lot of people that sell on Amazon or e-commerce in general, they mess up. They work so hard to get that initial sale, but then they don't do any upselling or any further selling. It's like, okay, I sold it, I'm done, next. Most money is made for your current customers. Back to that calendar business that I have, I have a list of 17,000 people that bought from me in the last 3 years directly, or they filled out the form to get the $10 free calendar for $10 shipping and handling, and those people are gold. I can go back to them and I can sell almost anything similar. I can launch products on Amazon. I can sell them things. I can get feedback from them. I can test my next year's covers. I can do, bring like the PickFu or the audiences on Helium 10. I do my own outside of those as well, where I just sit them, here's our 3 covers onto a website. Which one do you like best? These are our current customers, not just some random people that we've chosen, but actually people that are buying the product, and we get feedback and we make adjustments. So that's gold. So your customer list, having the most valuable thing you can have is the name, the email address, and the physical address, the snail mail address. Those 3 things are gold. If you have those, if Amazon shuts down your account, you can start up a Shopify store because you have a starting point, or you can take them, port them over, and use that audience to build a Facebook audience or a LinkedIn audience or whatever. It's important that you do that. And once they become a member, that they bought something, sometimes people just buy something, they're like, okay, I'm done, next. But some people become advocates. So that's the 5th level. When they become advocates, that means they're going to recommend you organically. That means they're going to say, hey, Bradley, have you seen these new shoes, man? These are badass, man. You got to check out these new Kizik shoes. You just slide your foot in, and you don't have to ever tie your shoe. You don't have to worry about your ankle fitting in the back and pulling it up or getting stuck. They're freaking awesome. So that's an advocate that's going out there and just spreading the word for you by recommending you to other people. And those are usually the happy customers. The ones that you've delighted are the ones that are going to be willing to do that. That's the 5th level. And the 6th level that you want to get people to is what's called raving fans. Raving fans are the ones that they're just going to be, these are the Swifties for Taylor Swift. They're the ones that are just out there buying everything that you do, telling the world about how great you are, tuning into football games just to see a glimpse of the person, for 5 seconds in the box. Those are your raving fans. And if you can get 1,000 raving fans in your business, whether you're using Amazon as the funnel, Shopify, your social media, if you can get 1,000 raving fans on your list, you will be a millionaire. You have something to sell them, either a service or a product to sell them. You will be a millionaire. That's all it takes is 1,000. So if you can get 1,000 raving fans and start doing everything you're doing with Amazon, stay in compliance, but using Amazon as a funnel for that can be a really good, powerful method to grow your business, to grow your brand, and increase the value. There are websites out there too that would do reverse matches. So if you have your own landing page, this is outside of Amazon. If you have your own landing page, or you have your own website or blog site, there's companies like retention.com that you can put a little bit of code. There's several other companies that do it too, but retention.com is one of them. You put a little bit of code on your website, and it will capture the email addresses of about 50% of your customers. So if people that come to your website and they're just looking around, they don't ever fill out a form, they will use geolocation stuff. So they know the IP address, they know your computer is sitting in Irvine, California right now because of the IP address that's out, and they can geolocate and say, oh, this is probably Kevin, because 2 years ago he filled out some sort of form on some other like gaming website, some sort of lucky lottery website, gave us this information from this same thing. It's probably Kevin. Here's his email address. They can match about 50% of the people. That's legal in the U.S. Now Europe and stuff, there's privacy laws that kind of stuff doesn't fly as well. But there's all kinds of ways you can get lists. In the old days, you could cookie people. That's how people followed you around from site to site to site. There's lots of ways out there, and we'll go into more detail about this in Helium 10 Elite. We have some really good tactics, but just want you to be thinking about these ways and trying to make sure you build your list because it's the most valuable asset, and Amazon's a great place to help you start doing that. So these are some of the things that you got to be thinking about as far as when it comes to customer acquisition, when it comes to actually staying in compliance with Amazon, first on a product level, and what you say and what you do. Hopefully this has been helpful, and looking forward to seeing you in the next module. Don't forget to check out the little bonus thing here too from Off Lobby. Afalabi is going to be talking about some of the pitfalls and some of the things you got to think about for compliance when it matters about bringing stuff into the United States. When you're shipping things in, how do you actually check to see that this stuff is actually legal and you met all the rules? So check out Afalabi's little supplement here as well. He's an expert in this, runs a 3PL, been doing this for a long time. We'll see you in the next module.
Anh chị đang bán hàng trên Amazon. Skyrock cung cấp các dịch vụ dành cho các nhà bán hàng trên Amazon với mức giá cực kỳ ưu đãi như đăng ký brand với USPTO, tuần theo Lâm Thêm, tuần chơi Scout, logistics và warehouse. Xem hình thông tin chi tiết dưới phần mô tả nhé.